This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hi and welcome to the next edition of the Away End. I'm Craig Courtney and I'm joined this evening by Stu from the Coventry City podcast, All Things Sky Blue. So, Stu, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sparing us some time.
No, thank you for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast, how long you've been going, and obviously as well. Your build up for the big game. Well, this weekend's big, but next weekend's bigger.
Yeah, to be fair, we are relatively quite new. We've only been going for about 2 seasons now, but the trajectory has gone really, really well. We are statistically the #1 podcast for Coventry City. You can find us on most socials, X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We've got some ex-player interviews on there. We've got some mental health interviews on there as well. We're on podcasts, so your normal podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, things like that as well. So yeah, we've just done another sort of another Blues, well, our preview, if you like, for the Blues game, and obviously you've just mentioned there our annual trip to Wembley, we like to call it. We normally go once a season, so we're going back to Wembley a week on Sunday to play Manchester United. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So you're doing your annual visit to Wembley, and we're doing our annual visit of a relegation fight. So I don't know which one I prefer, really.
It's got to be Wembley, surely.
I'm used well, could say, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and seen a winner. So we've done that one. So
yeah.
No, we obviously this coming weekend is the local derby. You guys fighting for a playoff spot still, and I think lots of teams still in the running. So you've got a lot to be fighting for. And whilst we are in the midst of yet again a relegation fight that sees us coming into that game as second from bottom, but it's so ridiculously close at the bottom of that league. It's arguably could be one of well, I'll say one really, but it's 2 out of 6 that are going to be fighting for it, and Birmingham to play Rotherham and Huddersfield, so it kind of still in our own hands. But yeah, going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's always tight, isn't it? Anyway, I know the past 2 games that we've won has been by 2 goals. The past 2 games, obviously, our place earlier on in the season, obviously the end of last season, but generally they are always quite tight. And I think over the history of the games that we've played, there's not much in it. I think there's 20 wins for you, 21 wins for us, or something like that, and probably the same amount of draws as well. So yeah, they're always tight games, and I'm not expecting, because last time I think stats wise it was a closer game than it was. I was watching the highlights earlier on today for the game for a little bit of prep work for myself, and we were kind of all over you, if I'm honest, especially the midfield area.
No, that's right.
It was the O'Hare show, really.
Indeed.
With the 2 goals, but I don't, because you're fighting down there, and I mentioned this to one of my colleagues today. On paper, you've got a really, really good side. It looks like a strong side, and not a side that should be down there fighting relegation. But unfortunately, games aren't won on paper, are they? It's going out there and playing the game.
We've been saying ourselves, if the squad was to turn out, then I don't think we'd be up in the playoffs. But mid-table mediocrity is where I would have loved to have been. But the season has gradually fallen apart. So, and I mean, you've mentioned there actually, how close the games have been. But when we go back over the past 5 games, it doesn't make pleasant reading for a Birmingham fan because Coventry have won 3 and we've drawn the other 2. So, we haven't beaten you now in 5 games. Ironic, really, when you think about it, isn't it? A fair few seasons ago now, Birmingham helped Cov theoretically survive in the Football League. And we played each other in that. Wow, it was fate, wasn't it? The FA Cup. Birmingham playing Coventry at home, but being away. And then, of course, having the reverse. Of which I was at both of those games, actually. It was pretty surreal. Especially to be in the Gilmerick in the away stand. It was so weird. And I could see people sitting in my season ticket seat. It was horrible. But no, I mean, you mentioned the last game. Again, how uncanny arguably the player that tore us apart on that day was coming back from injury. And of course, he's a relative of a Birmingham City hero, really. And I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't happen, on Saturday. In fact, I hope he has his worst game of his career, but we could all say that. But yeah, I mean, it was 2-0 last time that we played each other. And I think it's fair what you say. We were terrible. And there was no coming back, really, in terms of the way that we were. We didn't deserve to get a result at all.
Yeah.
Rather disappointingly for me, it was the day before my birthday, so it wasn't a very nice present.
Oh dear. Yeah, I can imagine.
Could have done with the 3 points. That would have been better. But no, we plough on, and like I say, after our loss against Cardiff City on Wednesday, we've got absolutely everything to fight for now. We have to, and I think we've got to see a Birmingham side that comes out fighting. Otherwise, they're going to lose the fans, and if they lose the fans, that won't be pleasant at all. So let's hope it's a good one. But we'll come on to the game a little bit more shortly.
Yeah.
But I want to test your knowledge first of all.
Oh God, my knowledge is shocking. But go on.
It's a little challenge, really. I've been back through a fair few years, actually, many years, looking at players that have represented both clubs, either with signings between each other, or loan signings, or even players, in some cases, that have played for both clubs but actually never ended up staying with us. So, I wonder if you could name 5 players over the past few years. Well, I say few years, go back as far as you want. That have represented both Birmingham and Coventry, either loans between the clubs, permanent signings between the clubs, or loans from their own clubs, and then ended up playing for both.
Okay. So I'm going to start off with probably the simple one first. Gary McSheffrey.
End of the show. He is a absolute gentleman, and I tell you, when we actually had him on Tilton Talk. To go through his time at Birmingham, and the one thing I will say is, he was so complimentary of Coventry and how they ultimately got him the move and everything else. So he had a lot of good things to say, but he was a phenomenal player.
He was good.
Unfortunately, didn't do it in the Premier League though, which I think for him was a disappointment.
Yeah, probably. To be fair, Yeah, yeah. He had a wonderful left foot, if I remember rightly. And that's what got him the move really to Birmingham. But yeah, good player. Obviously, I actually played football with his brother Danny,
Okay.
so I knew Danny more than I did for Gary. But yeah, so my next one would probably be. It's got to be the one at the moment. He's injured, I believe, for you guys, which is Lucas Jukovic.
Oh yes, he's injured, but a hero at our club. If there was one guy that I would love nothing more than to be fit and be on the field at this present moment, it would be him. And he is such a gentleman. When he's in the last year of his contract as well, so we don't know what will happen in the summer. I really do hope that they either give him an extension or maybe we see him in a coaching role. It'd be lovely to keep him at the club. But yes, Juki, um, I've got down there as well. So two relatively close ones there actually in terms of periods of time that they were at the club. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. John Eustace, he played for you as well, didn't he?
he didn't play for, well, he played for.
Oh, did he not? I thought he did.
Youth. He was part of the youth setup.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't actually represent the club first team. But obviously
okay.
did manage them. So
he did manage. Okay.
I'll let
Are you going to give me that one?
Yeah,
All
of
right,
course,
good.
you can have that
one. And now I'm struggling. There'll be a defender in there somewhere, I think.
Do you know, defenders wise, it's probably and it wasn't until I started looking at the transfers. I think you've had very much the same defenders and midfielders in terms of volumes between the two clubs. So
really? Okay.
yeah, he was a couple of goalkeepers as well. But yeah, definitely, defenders. That's
Yeah, my mind's blank. You're gonna have to help me on the other three.
well, if I give you some descriptions, it might help with some triggers.
Go on then.
So one of the defenders is actually now part of the structure at Birmingham when it comes to our youth team. He was described by Barry Fry as a man that would head a brick if it was coming towards him and would stick his head in front of a juggernaut just to stop it. He was centre half and he was a no-nonsense Irishman. Does that help?
No. Go on. Who? Sorry, you just cut out on me.
Liam Daesh.
Oh, of course, Daesh. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
Another, I'll go through a few of the other names as well. But when we talk about defensive players, in fact, let's start off in goal. Because one of these I didn't realise had actually come to Coventry, albeit it was on loan, and that was Ian Bennett. Yes. He was there for a short period. Another goalkeeper that you've had, David Stockdale. Of course, very short loan, but was...
Of course, that was a short loan. Yeah.
Defenders-wise, you've had Gary Breen.
Did Breen play for you, did he?
He did indeed.
Okay.
Jake Clark-Salter, of course, at QPR. At the
moment. God, yeah.
Both clubs.
That's more recent as well. Bloody hell.
It is. Peter Ramage.
Okay, that's going back. That's going back a bit.
It is indeed. Callum Riley was another one who represented both clubs.
Okay. No, I wouldn't have got him.
Scotty Dan. Again, another centre half. So it's the third centre half that we'd had from you.
Oh, God almighty.
And then going back a little bit further, we've even had David Burrows. So...
okay. Yeah.
And then finally, the Well, I think I'd rate him as our best ever left back, and that's Martin Granger. I think he was at loan towards the end of his
Of
time.
course, yes, he was. Yeah. Yeah.
And then other players that have represented both clubs. Peter Unlove, of course. He signed for Trevor when Trevor first came to the club, with Dele Adebola as well. You've mentioned Gary McSheffrey. You've mentioned Lucas Djukovic. Marlon King. The man.
I was going to say Marlon, but I couldn't remember if he actually played for you.
He did. He was, and again, friend of the show. He's just he was an absolute gentleman when he joined us. I'll never forget it. He's sitting down doing his interview, and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh yeah, I've got my room full of all my shirts," because we were just generally asking about
wow,
memorabilia, and he got up, took his camera and took us into this room, which was it was his gym, and it was phenomenal because all the walls were just covered in shirts.
Nice.
We've also got, of course, England under-21s manager himself, Lee Carsley.
Lee Carsley, God, yeah, of course.
Julian Gray and Stern John are a couple of others.
Wow.
And then, one person I totally forgot was David Rennie. I think he only represented Birmingham a few times.
Okay.
But also, for me, the guy that has arguably scored and should be remembered for scoring the best goal I've ever seen, and I think a lot of people have ever seen, at the old Twin Towers, Wembley. And that was in the cup final for Birmingham, and that was John Gale with his overhead kick.
Oh, okay.
So
there's been quite a few.
There has. And I mean, there were some others, I've got to say. I could have gone back into the 40s and the 50s, and there were players that were transferring over. And I was thinking, I wouldn't have a clue about these people. So didn't add them to the list. But it's uncanny how it has been, really. You look at it, a mixture. We could have formed an absolute fantastic team, really, when you look at those transfers. Clubs.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
The one interesting thing was we've never had a manager that's been at both clubs. So the closest that actually came to it, I think, would have been Eustace.
Yeah.
That was another one. Considering how close we are, it did. I was thinking to myself, really right, but I couldn't find any that overlapped. So
I can.
Oh, go on in.
Mowbray.
Of course, yes. How could I forget Tony Mowbray? And I should say, he's continuing with his return from ill health, and hoping to see Tony back in the summer. In the Championship. That's the way I'm looking at it.
We wish him all the best as well.
So good game, I think. We started off by talking about it here, but we're coming into the game at the weekend. But I mean, as a Cov fan, where did you think you would be at this point in the season? What was your expectations as you started the season? And dare I say, did you ever dream that you'd be in an FA Cup semi-final?
Right, so the FA Cup final, no, that was, we've got a rich history of going out in the third round against non-league sides and stuff. Last season against Wrexham, with all that, I don't want to say sort of all the entourage that goes along with Wrexham, that sort of that took over that area, but to get into a semi-final, to go through the teams that we had, and play the way that we have as well in the FA Cup. 6-2 against Oxford. Nobody wanted us to beat Maidstone because of the Maidstone sort of dream that was going on.
It was like,
yeah. So they were all difficult games to go into, and then for me, probably, the quarterfinal was arguably there was some really good games that weekend, and I think ours probably just. Again, I'm being biased slightly, but I think ours just pipped it really against Wolves. 3-2, last minute goal by Haji Wright. But if you'd given me, if you gave me 10th place at the start of the season and an FA Cup semi-final, I would have probably snapped your hands off. People that do listen to the podcasts, our podcast, I said from word go that we're a top 8 side. So top 8 doesn't surprise me. I just thought with losing Vic and losing Hamer at the start of last season and spending, some of not all of the money, but some of the money coming in.
Yeah.
And we didn't start very fast. It was a slow start for us as well. I didn't know whether we would be able to get into that top 6. But to be competing, I think that we will get in the top 6. I think it will be on goal difference. I think we'll be level on points, but I think we'll just sneak in. Playoff place, a semi-final. The honest answer is I did the preview for the Man United, and I've predicted that we'll win 4-2. I think there'll be goals, but I think we'll win 4-2. So I'm going to say a playoff place and the final of the FA Cup. 2 trips to Wembley. You can't ask for much more than that. Maybe 3.
It could be 3, couldn't it? Yeah, I mean,
it
could. The one thing I think you've got and that you've maintained is momentum, and Robins has got a group of players. They don't just fight for their positions, but the camaraderie you can see is there. The joint ability and the fact that you do have strength in depth, which is something that other Cov fans that I've spoken to have said we haven't seen strength in depth for many, many years. But actually, this time round, you've been able to build it up. But also, you've got a young crop of players that are eager to impress. So, I mean, if I was to give you a prediction going into the FA, I mean, first of all, to get to the FA Cup semi-final, to be at Wembley is a dream of anybody, right? I wish I could see Birmingham doing that, So I wish you every luck as you go into next week.
Thanks very much.
I'll be honest, I just think United will have that little bit more of. My prediction at the quarter-final stage was a Man City final, and
okay.
I still believe that it could happen, but we wait and see. And like I say, I wish you every luck next Sunday. But of course, there's a bigger game this weekend. So I mean, well, you've mentioned a couple of names already, but who should we watch out for? And I suppose the $1 million question is, do you think Robins will put out a full-strength side? Because what's more important, Premier League potential through the playoffs or get into a final in the FA Cup? And the final little question from me is, the last time you won the FA Cup with, I think it was Sillett as the manager, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Sillett and Curtis.
I believe you were the lowest ranked side at that point in time to get through to the stage that you did and then to go on and win it. You're the lowest ranked side again. Do you think, that the omens could be opening up for it to happen twice?
Well, it's funny that you should mention the omens because there is so much. When you look back at the history of 87, there is so much similarities between this year and that year. we beat a Wednesday, we beat a United, or several United. We beat Man United in that run as well.
Yes.
There's so many omens that are just uncanny. Look, I will never bet against Coventry. It's not in my nature. The worst result I'll ever do is probably a 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw. We do have a few other people that will sit on fences and that will go, but I'm not one of them. I'll always be the optimistic person of the group, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've shown this year that we can go up against Premier League quality teams like Leeds, like Leicester, like Wolves, and we can go toe to toe with them. Man United, look, don't get me wrong, Man United on their day will probably turn us over if we're not at full strength.
Yeah, if you're not at your game.
If we show up and we turn up and they don't, and they haven't for a lot of their games, they've managed to just get through them, then I think it, like I was saying when I did our pod earlier with the Stretford paddock, and I said I think it will be a basketball game. I think it will be end to end. I think there'll be chances on both. But what you need to remember is Coventry are top goal scorers in the FA Cup. We're leading it on 19 goals.
Yeah.
Sims, who I'll mention in one of your other questions as well, because I think he needs a really good mention. He scored a hat-trick against Maidstone in the FA Cup. Right. And then he scored 2 games later in the league. He scored another hat-trick. He's got 2 hat-tricks. And he hasn't stopped scoring. Apart from against Southampton, he's scored in pretty much every game, bar one, I think. He's level on goals in the FA Cup with Erling Haaland on 5 goals apiece. So he's in good company. But it's, and again, just like we had the camaraderie in 87 and a feel-good factor, it's exactly the same now. It started off last year and it started off slow, but we're like you mentioned, it's momentum going into games.
And it continues,
And at the moment, that's what we've got. We have a little bit of a blip, like we've had a blip against Preston, and we had a blip against. We started off slow against Southampton on Tuesday, but second half we played a little bit better. But against better opposition, talking about obviously Man United, we raise our games, and it's not like we haven't won at Wembley. We've won at Wembley a couple of times now. The third trip in the playoff final last year, has been our only blip at Wembley, really. So, and some of the players that are new, they've been to Wembley as well. The likes of Kitchen, the likes of Thomas, Collins. Them backs, the goalkeeper and the 2 centre halves. They were at Barnsley in the playoff final, so that it's not going to be. They're not going to be overawed by the occasion. They've been there. They know what it's about. So I think that puts in a little bit good stead as well.
So what do you think to the game on Saturday then? What's your prediction?
Well,
yes, I will say never done one of these where the opposition has not backed their own team. So and I expect no different this time.
I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think it will be a hard game because you're scrapping for your lives as well, just as much we are at the other end. We are due a clean sheet because we haven't had one in a while. So I think we do keep a clean sheet. I don't think it's going to be a runaway, so I'm not going to say something stupid like 4-5 because I don't think it's going to be that. I think I am going to go for a 2-0. On my other one, I went for a 2-0. So the past 2 games have been both 2-0 to us. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go 2-0 again.
I'm surprise. Even though we were very poor, once we conceded against against Cardiff, sorry, that the players got booed off the pitch. There has been a lot of things said. There were things said in the dressing room after the game. I believe that may be the rocket that they need to help them get away from the situation we're in. But I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think it will be scrappy. I think we'll have two teams, neither of which want to lose. Yeah. Probably midfields will, quash each other, really. I think and that's where the fight in the previous games has very much been similar. Midfields have always battled against each other, but it's led with a mistake, or I've seen some horrendous officiating as well. Birmingham have played Cov. So I'm actually going to, I really do believe that we can get a 1-0 win. I don't think it'll be any more. Okay. I will be ecstatic if it's more. But I just think if they come with the fire in the belly that I really hope they do after Wednesday evening, then that could help us. And it could well be in our own hands as well, because Plymouth are playing Friday evening. So they're up against Leicester. So, we're all hoping that Leicester give them a drubbing so that they can go top of the league and keep Plymouth down there. But, if that happens, then again, a draw is enough to get us out. But it's a draw was good. It's not enough for the fans. We need to see 3 points, and we need to see a clean sheet actually. So it's going to be really tight, really tough to call. But I'll go with a 1-0 to Birmingham.
What do you think would happen if you guys go 1-0 down early? Do you think things will turn?
Yeah, I mean, Wednesday night was an example of where we were holding Cardiff. We made a big mistake, trying to play the ball out, lost it in midfield. They had a brilliant piece of play, which resulted in their goal. But at that point, it was as though the stadium had just been emptied, because it went from far from a raucous atmosphere, but we were behind them and everything else, and it went to a point that it was deathly silent, and you could just look around and see people, heads down, heads away from it. The players were exactly the same. So if they do go behind, can I honestly see us scoring 2 goals? No. And in fact, couldn't tell you the last time that actually happened, where Birmingham went behind and came back to win a game.
Okay.
So, we've got a lone striker at the end of the day. That might change. It might be that one of the youngsters gets a crack. But we've got a lone striker at the moment, and he's young. Stansfield's first season, arguably, in this level of football. And we're almost solely reliant on him to go and score the goals to put us in the situation. Like you said earlier, love to have Djukovic. Djuki would be the difference. Djuki would be that person that's not afraid to take the ball by the horns and give people a go as well. So, I mean, if it's like Cardiff, we can hold, we can be hard to get around. But we've just got those mistakes in us. But we are due that clean sheet, and we're due that win. The Preston game was the last one a few weeks ago, but it was only a 1-0. And to be honest, it came because we had such a spot of luck when not one player fell, but 2 players fell. So Stansfield then was through on goal. So it's going to be tough. As always, I've got a fair few friends at work who are Coventry fans that have already told me if they win, I've got to buy the coffees. So I've made it a little bit different. And, I'll buy the coffees if they win. It's no problem at all. I've told them they've got to buy me breakfast. So that's the one that's more expensive.
Yeah, too right.
So, no, it'll be good. But are you going yourself?
No, I'm not going to this one. To be fair, the tickets went so fast that it was, Birmingham's always a quick seller anyway.
Indeed. And you've only got 2,000
just because of
tickets.
the rivalry.
So it's
so not going to that one. Hopefully, I'll be watching it on the red button, or I might pop round one of my mates and catch it another way. But yeah, I'll be watching it. I'll be watching it somehow.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I'll be down here, season ticket holder, so I have been for 27 seasons, so that's not going to change.
Excellent.
But thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for the invite. Much appreciated.
As with all clubs, as I end it, I will say to you, all the very best for the rest of the season, and with the push towards your Premier League and your FA Cup semi-final. But I hope on Saturday you have an absolutely fire game, and that your players don't turn up. Thank you very much, and keep right on.
Thank you very much. It's reciprocated, by the way. See you later. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.